how's it going, YouTube? This is Eric with the Eric Abroad channel, and you are listening or watching to the very, very first Eric Abroad video podcast. That's right. I am super excited for this, guys. First off, I want to say happy Halloween. I'm recording this on Sunday, so I guess it's technically not Halloween yet, but to the future, to those of you, this will be uploaded on Halloween, so let's cue up the sound effects. That is the Halloween sound effect I queued up just for that. Today, guys, I'm really excited to start this. Again, we're going to see how this goes. This is the very first video podcast I've ever done. And I come from a film background where I'm used to editing out things that I don't need. I'm used to having a script. I'm used to having music to use. And we don't have any of those. We have sound effects, no script. I have some notes here to guide us through this. But today, we're going to be talking about something I think a lot of you guys, or a lot of the people who watch my channel are very interested, and that is... what could it be? What could it be? How to learn Japanese! Oh, I already botched that. Damn it. I downloaded the Zelda sound effect. We'll play it again. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? I'll turn it off. I already botched it. I messed up how I... fuck. Alright, whatever. Yeah, we're gonna learn today how I learned Japanese, but I'm also still learning it. I'm still in school learning it, so I'm by no means fluent. I guess I'll throw that out there right off the bat. People will be like, oh, how did you perfect your fluency in Japanese? Well, it's not fluent by any means. I would, I won't say it's bad. I think it's getting to a point where I can use everyday conversation. I can make phone calls. I've been working at a bookstore lately. That's a Japanese bookstore. So there I use Japanese throughout the whole day with customers and with my boss. So those are like my credentials, I guess. Up until this point, I've been studying Japanese for about 2.5, almost 3 years. Pretty soon here, it'll be 3 years. So yeah, a lot of the guys, if you guys don't know my channel, by the way, thank you for listening and or watching. We have the video podcast on YouTube, and the audio versions are going up to SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play Music. So if you would rather listen to it there, you're free to do that. Again, I'm really excited for this. This is the very first one, so I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope this is helpful for you guys because for those who don't know me, my YouTube channel is a channel where we basically spend time talking about, traveling throughout Japan, discussing Japanese culture, and also trying to learn a little bit of the Japanese language on the side. And in the comments, quite often, a lot of you guys will ask me, like, hey, how did you learn Japanese? What textbook should I buy? Should I go to school? I see the same question kind of pop up a lot, so I thought this would be a great first video podcast topic to go over because... learning Japanese is a lot of fun, but I'll also say it's probably not for everyone. As you know, even in my case, I learned Spanish growing up and I hated it. It's not for everyone to learn a specific language, and that will bring us into I'm looking at my notes here. I have some bullet points to kind of guide us through this. Again, this isn't scripted, but these notes will just help me keep on track, I think. So I guess step one, I don't know. Question number one is simply this. Why do you want to learn Japanese? And this can go with, again, this video could probably apply to any language, but today we're going to specifically be talking about Japanese. Why do you want to learn it? That might be a broad question. You might be like, well, I'm just interested in, excuse me. I just had some coffee. It's late at night here. So I got a little burp there, so I didn't want to burp in the mic there. It might be a broad question. A lot of the answers I hear are like, I grew up watching anime, I like video games, and I'd like to learn the language a bit because I think it's cool and I like the culture. And to that I say, hey, welcome, super cool. That is no better or no worse a reason to learn a language. That's totally cool. I guess I'll tell you guys my background and how I started learning Japanese and what kind of motivated me to start and what continues to motivate me. I don't know. I guess I could make it a long story, but I'm going to try to keep this podcast. We're going to aim for an hour here. Let's see how we do. We're going to aim for an hour. I think that's a good amount of time to get all this information out. And again, this isn't scripted. And this is a fun thing for me, kind of a fun time for me to kind of I finally get to ramble. I finally get to just say whatever I want. And I guess make you guys listen to it. So sorry about that. But anyways, I'm going to try to keep this story short. So basically, if you guys have seen some of my first videos on my YouTube channel, there was a video where I went to the beach with a couple American friends and some Japanese friends. Again, these are like I think those are like my very first videos. And there's a guy in those videos, his name was Brett. I'd consider him, I guess, one of my best friends. And a couple years ago, we lived together for about a year in the same apartment. And I can't remember what time of the year or what the occasion was, but we were having a party. And we were having like a kind of a small party. And Brett's friend, I won't say his name just to keep it whatever. Let's say his name is Mick. So Brett's friend Mick. It's not his real name, but... So Brett's friend Mick, at the time, was studying at Portland State University, which is the college where I live. I live in Portland, Oregon, of United States of America. And he was studying and living in the dorm rooms there. And his roommate, so again, this is Mick. Brett's friend Mick was studying at Portland State, and his roommate was a foreign student from Japan. And none of us had ever met him. I didn't even know he had a Japanese roommate. And so Mick asked Brett, like, hey, is it cool if I bring my Japanese roommate to the party? He'd really like to come. And Brett said, absolutely, like, bring him over. And I think Mick was a little hesitant to bring him, thinking he might be, I don't know, shy or embarrassed. It turns out he is, I think even now, he's a professional comedian living in Tokyo. And I say that very seriously. I've seen some of the tournaments he's in. He's been on like TV and won some competitions. He's really legit, and I believe he recently left his main job to pursue being a comedian full time. That doesn't matter, but all I'm saying is he was not shy at all. He showed up to this party. He was hilarious. He was talking to us. We drank together. We did some shots. But at the time, I knew nothing about Japan, really, outside of what any American knows, you know, watching samurai movies or Pokemon growing up, you know, things like Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't know. Like, I didn't know much about Japan outside of just like some social media things or popular media, I guess. And anyways, so I didn't really know what to talk to him about. So we had Super Smash Brothers on the TV going. This was Super Smash Brothers Melee, by the way, on the GameCube. Don't play, well, I don't want to start a war here, but Melee's the best game. Anyways, we had that up on the TV for the party, and I asked him, like, hey, do you play Smash? And, you know, he's from Japan, and Smash is from Japan. He probably plays. And he goes, oh, I haven't played since I was a kid, but sure, let's play. And at the time, I thought I was pretty good. I actually thought I played Marth, for those who know Super Smash Brothers. Marth is the blue guy, kind of looks like a girl, and he has a sword. I thought I was pretty good. So I challenged him, and he played, I remember this actually pretty clearly. This is kind of sad that I know this, but he was playing Captain Falcon, and we were both down to our last lives. And for those of you who don't have any idea what I'm talking about, I apologize. Smash is basically a party game where you fight each other as Nintendo characters, and super nerdy, but it's Smash. It's really fun. And if you fall off the stage, you die. So we were fighting, and we ended up like jumping off the stage together, and we're punching each other in the air, and he died just before I did. So like I was about to die, and I like poked him with the sword. That sounded weird. And he died. And so everyone kind of went like, oh, because it was a really intense match, and we were all, you know, we're a few drinks in, we're kind of drunk. And this was now that I think about it, this actually may have been the moment where I decided, okay, not only I guess one, I want to get to know this guy more, this Japanese guy, because his response to the loss of this game was so funny. I think after this point, I decided, okay, I want to get to know this guy more, and I also want to learn a little bit of Japanese so that I can kind of talk with this guy more, or just learn more about his culture. And that moment was, I killed him. Everyone throws up their stuff. He drops to his knees. For those not watching the video, I'm kind of animating it, but basically he drops to his knees, throws his arms up in the air, and he shouts in like a very Japanese accent, but he's speaking in English. He shouts, "Oh no! World War II! We lose again!" That still makes me laugh every time. It was so. Oh, I guess I could use this here. Well, that was stupid. Here, how about this? Laugh track. Aha, there we go. Yeah, it is funny. It is funny, right? Thanks, guys. Yeah, so he shouts, "World War II, we lose again," after losing a Super Smash Brothers match, and all of us, we fell to the floor. Again, we're very intoxicated, but it was seriously One of the funniest moments for me, like one of the funniest, top 3 funniest things I've ever heard in my life. From that moment, we became great friends, I would say, as in we were hanging out all the time. And again, through that, I got, I met some more of his friends, and we'd go out to go eat, and we'd talk a little bit. And, it's fun to exchange, like, culture things, like, ask him about, like, what Japanese guys think about, basic things like girls and different movies and music. And I guess that's kind of boring, but you know what I mean? Like, just asking about other cultures, it's really, really fun. And through that, I started, hey, how do I say this in Japanese? Hey, how do I say this? And long story short, after meeting all of them and getting interested in the culture, at the same time, I was not quitting. I got kind of laid off from a job I was doing, which I was working full time. So the fact that I was getting laid off was a big deal. And I decided at that point I'd like to go back to school. So it kind of just worked out where I was already going back to school. And I apologize, I'm coughing a lot. I think I may be catching a cold. It rains in Oregon every day, so I'm going to be coughing probably quite a bit throughout this. I'm going to try to move away from the mic. I'm still kind of new to using a mic like this, so apologize for that. But yeah, anyway, so it just kind of worked out where I basically was able to go back to school, and I was like, okay, I'll start taking some classes in Japanese because, I don't know, why not? And I did. And after a year of doing that, I loved it so much, I decided to go to Japan for a year, study abroad. In next week's podcast, we'll actually be discussing how I did that, like the steps I took, who I talked to. I can give advice maybe, I guess, on like setting up, well, not a bank account because I never did that, but like, I don't know, just like getting to Japan, traveling, what trains to use, things like that, how to find things. And my advice might be specific to my experience, but it may help. So that'll be next week. So I did that for, about 10 months. I was living in Japan, Osaka, Japan, which is basically the second biggest city aside from Tokyo. And I'm not even saying this as I am kind of biased, but Osaka is so much more fun than Tokyo, in my opinion. Tokyo's fun if you're going to Japan for like a week, but if you're going for months, Osaka is a blast, and it's just a lot less crowded, and it's like going to either Portland, Oregon, or New York. I use Portland because I'm biased because I love Portland. But anyways, I loved Osaka. It was great. And now I'm back home finishing my last year, and I intend on going back to Osaka after I graduate next fall to hopefully go back and teach English. I have a few friends that are working out there right now. Some of you might ask if it's Jet. It's not Jet. He's been working as an English teacher for like 10 years. He's older than I am, but we became good friends over there. And anyways, I may get a job through him. If not, I may do something like Jet or something to kind of get my foot in the door and then move on from there, because I don't really have experience teaching English. But if you want to move to Japan and work in Japan, teaching English is by far the easiest way to do that. So I want to learn Japanese so that it can help my chances to get a job if I'm able to talk to my bosses. And yeah, so why do I want to learn Japanese? Well, originally it was to talk to my friends, and it still is. I want to be able to communicate, and like my goal is to be fluent in Japanese with my friends to where I never, like, it's just muscle memory. We can make jokes. I can talk shit about people. You know what I mean? You can get together and like just jump into Japanese. That's why I want to learn it. And I also, like I said, it might help me get a job in Japan. Especially if I want to live there, learning that, if I speak Japanese, that's going to be very helpful and make it much more comfortable for me. So that's why I want to learn it. So, that's my first question, is why do you want to learn? Because you're going to want that motivation in your head, on the days that you don't want to study. Everyone has those days. Athletes have days they don't want to train. People have days they don't want to go work. I have a lot of days I don't want to study Japanese, but I remember, okay, next year I'm going to be back in Japan, in theory. Do I want to take a day off and maybe not learn a few words, or should I learn a few words? And that usually motivates me enough to go, okay, all right, fuck it. Like, let's learn at least a little bit. Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of my intro to that, is why do you want to learn a language? It's a good thing to know. And people are going to ask too, like, especially as a foreigner learning Japanese, if you go to Japan, they're going to say, why Japanese? Like, why? Like, and to Americans, it might be kind of obvious, like, well, it's a cool country, it's Japan, it's another culture, but to them, it's normal for them. Like, why would you choose us? Usually they kind of seek after, or I'm kind of generalizing here, but in my experience, my Japanese friends usually seek kind of American culture. They want to listen to Taylor Swift and Justin Bieber and MTV and Hollywood, and they want that. And then Americans going into Japan, they want to go to the shrines and the temples, and so it's kind of this opposite. You kind of want to experience where you haven't been yet. So, and that's true for Japan too. So know why you want to, and tell them like, well, I want to learn because X. Second question on my list here is, are you going to school and can you travel? I don't want to discourage anyone who can't do either of these things. If you can't go to school or go to if you cannot go to school and you cannot travel, that's fine, of course. Obviously, what I'm saying is if you can, it will absolutely help. I'm going to say that. But that doesn't mean you can't learn on your own. That doesn't mean you can't learn without traveling. There's plenty of ways to still be able to speak with Japanese people, still ways to kind of practice on your own. So, second point on there. If you are going to school, does your school have a program? Are you still in high school? Are you in middle school? Are you in college? Are you already graduated? Are you like a parent already? I think most people age-wise who watch my channel seem to be roughly high school to college or low 30s. But if you're older and you have like family and stuff like that, learning as a hobby is definitely possible. I'll say this, Japanese is very hard. Any language is very hard, but Japanese in particular for English speakers is difficult in that it's just so different. The grammar and the structure is so flipped. It's going to take a while, but if you're willing to do it, anyone, if you follow your dreams, you can do anything, and there's my joke sting. And, but yeah, seriously. So I don't want to discourage anyone, but if you can go to school, and you can travel to Japan to practice your Japanese, I would encourage practicing before you go. Please do, because it'll help for sure. I think my first week in school, I learned more in 1 week in school than like 6 months that I tried to do self-studying, trying to learn to be able to talk with that comedian friend. I was doing a program online similar to like Rosetta Stone, I guess, but it's not. It's only audio. It's called Pimsleur, Pimsleur, I think. And I've heard it's actually pretty good for some languages like German or French. German is easier to learn for English speakers because it's Germanic. I think they both come from like the same root, so grammatically I think it's easier. I don't know, I don't speak a lick of German, but for Japanese it wasn't really that easy, and I've heard for Rosetta Stone as well that it's pretty shitty for Asian languages, because the reason for that is the way Rosetta Stone is set up is it'll show you a picture and then the word, and you have to like choose which picture is the right one. Kind of, it's like a baby. It's like, which one is the apple? And you pick it, right? And in theory, that would work great. And I think for like Spanish or any other language, for English speakers, that would work really well. But unfortunately for Japanese, it's so different that the grammar, I think it really, in my opinion, it's better to be taught in a classroom. It's better to have a teacher that you can go to after class and other classmates and ask, like, I don't really understand this grammar point. How does this work? And I would recommend a classroom. At least for the first year. That's one thing I'll say. In the first year of Japanese, when you're first starting out, wow, I'm coughing a lot and I really apologize. That's probably annoying. That's killing me. In your first year of Japanese, the first thing you're going to learn, aside from, some basic words, konnichiwa, sayonara, ohayo, some words like these, you're gonna learn okay, so for those who don't know, in Japanese there's 3 writing systems, so let's talk about that for a second. There's 3 writing systems. One is hiragana, katakana, or kanji. We're gonna not talk about kanji too much today, maybe a little bit, because kanji are the Chinese characters and they're really hard to learn. They're fun to learn, they're rewarding to learn, but they're very difficult. So for now, let's just focus on the first 2. Hiragana and katakana, you'll learn these. Hiragana is very simple form of Japanese. It's essentially an alphabet. Each character has a vowel, like a sound. So like, for example, the first one is like an A. So it's a, I, U, E, O, kaki, kuke, ko, sasi, su, se, so. So they go like that, like a, I, U, E, O, but they're different things. Ra-di-ru-de-ro, and things like that, and it just goes down. Of course, it's hard to learn just because it's new. but it's essentially just like a new alphabet. I don't know how many characters is it, like 48, 50? Someone can correct me on that, but it's basically like 2 times the amount of letters we have in English as far as alphabet. But they're phonetic and they never change. So like as opposed to English where like different vowels can have different pronunciations, Japanese won't have that. I mean, there's rare cases where you kind of change it for fluency purposes, but generally you can just read it out phonetically. So you don't have to, if that makes sense. So the first thing you'll learn is hiragana. And hiragana is used for, it's the first thing that's taught to like Japanese children. It's like how they would maybe write their name before they know kanji. Japanese children's books, if you buy a children's book, which I absolutely recommend, seriously, they're awesome. Buy like, if you guys know like The Giving Tree, what are some other like classic stories? Ones like that, like very classic children's stories. You can buy them in Japanese. If you can find it online or in a bookstore, I absolutely recommend it because it's a great. Don't be ashamed. You know, if you're starting a new language, you're basically a Japanese child. So, kind of just treat it like that and you'll grow through it. So hiragana is that. Katakana is the same in that the sounds are the same. The writing is a bit different. You know, it's all different characters, but, the sounds are all the same. But the difference is it's only used to try to pronounce, foreign words. So, for example, if you went to Japan and you wanted to do dry cleaning, you'd go to the place that has the sign that says cleaningu. So it's not cleaning, it's cleaningu. And it's spelled in the katakana form. And because it's in katakana, you know that it's a foreign word trying to be pronounced. If that makes sense. It's a Japanese person trying to pronounce a foreign word, which might sound like, oh my God, now I have to learn 2 different writing systems. This is so much. Believe me, after you learn it, you'll be so thankful you did, because when you are trying to, say for example, you were trying to read cleaningu, but in hiragana, you would think it's a Japanese word, and you're like, what does cleaningu mean? Like, what is that word? Oh, I've never heard that. But the second it's in katakana, you know immediately, okay, this is a foreign word, and it's not just English. Another example is the Japanese word for part-time job is arubaito, or baito. You can say baito. Apparently, it's a German word. I don't know what the original word is, but it's German, and it's something that has to do with like part-time work. So those are the first 2 things you'll learn, hiragana and katakana. So basically my first year in America studying Japanese was learning those 2, learning a little bit of kanji. We learned about 100 kanji, which is like the numbers, day, night, today, tomorrow, yesterday, things like that. Pretty basic ones. Which they're kanji are hard, so we're not going to go into that too much today. That we can talk about that another time. They are fun though. They take a lot of time. So my first year was basically hiragana, katakana, and kind of learning like the basic grammar and kind of understanding how it works. Because at first, man, it's quite a puzzle. And this podcast is more teaching you like how to approach Japanese, ways to stay motivated, and tools you can use. Teaching Japanese, like this isn't going to be like a language lesson necessarily right now. Those we may do in future videos. I would love to do Eric Abroad, Japanese with Eric Abroad 101 kind of things. I think that'd be really fun. And then also like not basic Japanese, like swear words and slang and words that like kids in Japan actually use, because there's actually a lot. That would also be really fun. So that'll be in the future. Anyways, I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. So textbooks and phone applications and anything that I use to learn Japanese, let's get into it. So those who are listening on the audio podcast and not watching the video podcast, I apologize. I can't show you the textbook, but I'll try to describe it here. The first one that I did, when I was in America, I used a different textbook, but basically any textbook's going to be the same for the first year because it's hiragana, katakana, and the basics of Japanese. So there's only so much they can put in. So the book I got in my second year, and this is also offered in a first year version. And I want to say I don't work for any of these companies. I'm not sponsored by any of these, so please don't ask. These are literally just the books I own and have acquired through the years. There may be better books that you can go ahead and use. By all means, go ahead. This is just what I recommend and what I've used. This book is called Genki. Oh, it's disgustingly dirty. I've used it for quite a while here. This was my second year book. They also offer a year 1 book. I don't know if they have a year 3 book, but this book is great. I'll pop this open here. So for example, I'm going to pull up chapter 14. What is it? What chapter is this? I don't know. I think this is chapter 14 here. So this will just kind of give you an example of how it works. So the first page says bunpo, which means grammar. And the first grammar is hoshi. Hoshi. Hoshi means to want something. So I want a good kanji dictionary. いい感じの辞書が欲しいです. It's jisho, right? I think I forgot the word. Yes, it's jisho. We're good. So that's just an example. So basically when you open up this chapter, it'll show you like 4 or 5 of these new words. So hoshi, kamoshiremasen, which is, we don't have to go into that, but it's another grammar point. And you'll basically go through this throughout like a week. You'll learn 5 new grammar points. You'll learn about, I think it's like 30, 40 vocab words. So you learn some new grammar, some new words, like vocabulary. And then at the very end, there's usually like practice stuff you can do. There's an audio, I think that there's a CD that comes with it, which is actually super helpful. Again, like I really took my time with this, and it was absolutely worth it. So if you do need to self-study, I think you absolutely can with this book. Again, it's called Genki. This is Genki 2. Actually, one of my professors in Japan was one of the authors of this book. I didn't know that. The day I went into my class, they called out, she was introducing herself, doing her, it's called a Jiko Shokai, which is a self-introduction. And she was like, Tokashiki sensei desu. And I was like, Tokashiki? That sounds familiar. And I looked in the book. I'm looking right here. Kyoko Tokashiki. So that was my teacher, and she helped write this book apparently. So that's pretty interesting. Definitely recommend it. Great book. Again, I told you we're not going to get into kanji today, but I will show you the textbooks I bought for it. These are also made by Genki. It's called Kanji Look and Learn. These have 512 kanji. Basically a rule of thumb, I at least, and I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Japanese, by the time you graduate high school as like a Japanese student, you roughly know about 2,000 kanji. Like you can read and write 2,000 kanji. And that, I believe that's enough to kind of get by in life, like newspapers and, just like everything in Japan. If you know the 2,000, you're usually fine. Maybe some names or some like place names or train station names might be hard to understand, but at least reading books and stuff, 2,000 is pretty good. So this is the first 512. This basically 2 years of studying got me through these books. And I need to go through and review them again. So they're great to have. I carry with these with me all the time, and I'll go through like, okay, yeah, that's that kanji. Because if you're not using it every day, I might be reading it a lot. I'll be texting my friends, doing a lot of stuff. Ooh, that's another thing we'll talk about. There's an application that you guys should get for text messaging. And so I'll read it a lot and be like, okay, I know how to read it. And then the second someone asks me to write it, I'm like, oh, fuck, I forgot. So kanji, these are good. It's 2 books, actually. This is the one that I usually use. But this is another one. It's basically just like the workbook. So it's like homework. And I guess if you're self-studying, you could use this too. Like, okay, in 1 week, I'm going to learn 12 kanji. I'm going to do the homework for it and kind of turn it into myself. Maybe have a friend that can help you correct it, or, I think these are great. Aside from that, let's see. I actually have a bunch of kanji books that I bought in my first year because I was so excited to learn it, and I never used them. This is one. I'll always keep this. It's basically just like it's called The Guide to Reading and Writing Japanese. Again, these guides, there's so many that exist. You don't necessarily have to buy these when it comes to kanji because there's a lot that exist. It's basically just, it just has all the kanji listed with all the readings, how to draw it. I know my camera isn't picking this up too well. Sorry about that. But yeah, I never use this. Well, I don't know. It's good to have though. Like I'll never throw this away. One that I might get rid of. Actually, I don't know. If I ever do like a live stream or like a giveaway sometime, this might be what I give away. This is a guide to writing kanji and the hiragana katakana. So if you're new to Japanese, let me pop this open. I bought this and I never used it. So first kanji is ah. It's just ah. It's like an A. Boom. That's it right there. So it has 1 million slots where you can keep redrawing it over and over and over, and then like really small slots so you can learn how to draw it small. I bought this and I never used it. Not to say it was bad, but it's basically just how to draw kanji, and you can practice it. So I guess maybe I should do like a giveaway sometime, and someone who wants to learn Japanese and I think deserves it. No, I'm just kidding. I might give this away or something because I'll never use it. Aside from that, these are good. like I said, I was working at a Japanese bookstore, so I found these. These are actual textbooks that are used in Japan. Oh, sorry, these are for kanji. So again, I said I wouldn't talk about it, but I'll just show you these. The company, I believe, is Kumon. Yeah, it's Kumon. Kumon. But in hiragana, it's Kumon right there. Kumon no shogakko duriru, which is like drills for elementary school kids. This is second year, so literally like second grade kanji. And I know I'm recommending it, and I bought it, but I haven't gone through it at all yet. This second year one is mostly review for me, so I kind of went through and just like read it. This third year one, I have no excuse. I just simply haven't done it yet, so I have the same one for third year. I just bought it because I figured I'd practice with it, but for me, the English versions have been obviously easier because the explanations are in English, so it helps me like, okay, I actually understand it. I'm not trying to decipher these Japanese ones. And then this is just another book. It's just a notepad for kanji, just blank paper. Haven't used it yet. What I mostly use for kanji, and I know I keep saying I'm not going to talk about kanji too much, but this also applies to hiragana, katakana. There's an application that I have. I am on Android, so I know not everyone has Android, and you guys have iPhone, but there's plenty of applications for iPhone. I know there's one called Imiwa, like Imiwa. Imiwa in Japanese means what's the meaning. Apparently it's like a dictionary, and I think you can look up kanji and things like that. But I haven't used it, so I apologize. I don't know all the information about it. I think that this application is terrific. Let me go to the, it's simply called Kanji Study. I'm showing the video people here right now. I know it's hard to read, but just type in Kanji Study. There's a free version, but I paid for the full version to unlock all the cool stuff. So for example, if I'm studying, this is hiragana. Again, I know my camera isn't really picking it up, but these are all like the hiragana characters. You can open it up. Whoa. Well, there we go. Look at that. It even has it like a, I, U, E, O. Here we go. Wow, that was weird. Okay, so it has all that. You can study them like flashcards, memorize them, and you can also practice writing them, which is great. It'll test you. It'll say like, how do you draw O? And you're like, fuck. You have to actually draw it, and if you fuck up, it'll tell you. This is terrific app. I use this. I personally right now I take the train to school because it's close enough. It's more convenient living in a city to take the train than drive, so I take the bus, and I use this when I'm on there and just to kill time, and it really helps me refresh my. I use it specifically for kanji, but if you're using hiragana, katakana, or beginner's kanji, it has all of them in here, and you can totally practice. I absolutely recommend it. That shit's awesome. I buy all these books, but you can see I haven't even touched them because I can do it all on my phone now, and it's kind of sadly almost too convenient, but it's great to have. Another app, of course, is Google Translate. I'll say this. Google Translate is terrific for single words and for kanji. If you see if you're in Japan and you're like, I don't know how to read that, there's a feature in Google Translate that allows you to draw the kanji out, and you kind of have to draw it fast, unfortunately. It's pretty picky, but if you can draw it quick enough, it'll translate it for you, and then cool, you can read it. That helped me out so much, and especially if you're the other app I'm gonna recommend in a moment is for text messaging. If you're text messaging a friend in Japanese and they say something, and you're like, shit, I don't know how to say that. Obviously, punching it into Google Translate can help. But I'll say this: Google Translate for sentences. Obviously, maybe that's not obvious, but I'll just tell you, it's not great. Because grammatically, again, Japanese is very different. So putting in Japanese and getting like a direct translation in English, it never really works. But for single words and for single kanji, it's terrific. And I use it a lot, like almost every day. And you can save certain words. So if there's a certain word I'm struggling with, what's a word I've been struggling with lately? There was a few words I forgot. Was it suiseki? I'm going to check right now. I think it's, sorry for the delay here for those, again, this is the podcast, so it's kind of a slow pace here. I hope you guys are listening to this, like while you're kind of doing something else, maybe like cooking or doing laundry or driving or riding the bus, studying your kanji, haha. Because I don't know. I'm new to podcasts, but when I listen to podcasts, I like comedian podcasts. Bill Burr is the comedian that I like. He's hilarious, and I listen to his a lot because it's just kind of like background noise. Anyways, I'm going off on another tangent here, but just gonna say I hope you guys are not like sitting on the edge of your seat. So what's the answer to learning Japanese? Because I'm really taking my time here. Okay, I'm going to my phrase book. And where's the word? I think it's suiseki, which I think means to guess. So I guess I'm guessing right here and now. Let's do the guess. I'll punch it in. Suiseki. No, I don't think that's a real word. Damn it. I'm going to have to study that later. But again, this is great. So again, I could punch it now in English because I fucked up. I lost. We lose for the day. To guess. Suisoku. Okay, so it's suiseki. It's not suiseki. It's suisoku. So you can just see there. Well, actually, you can't see there because my camera sucks. But suisoku, to guess. So again, it's great for if you have a word that's like, fuck, I just can't remember it. You can save it. Challenge myself. Like, okay, in 2 hours, I'm going to ask myself again, what was that word? And try to remember. So that helps me. Okay, let's move on here. Those, what have I shown you so far? The textbooks I have, kind of the apps I have. And I guess, I'm looking at all the rest of my notes here. It's basically just advice. So here we go. Again, I hope this is helpful. It may seem pretty obvious, but it's looking back at me studying the languages or at the language. There's some things that, I liked and didn't like, and some things that worked and didn't work. So these are what worked for me. So, again, I hope this helps. Again, I recommended going to school if you can, because for me, it helped tremendously. Mostly because it makes you do it. I know that sounds weird, and if you really want to learn the language and you can do it on your own, go ahead. But I'm the kind of guy, like over this summer break when I got back from Japan, I told myself, okay, every day I'm going to practice Japanese. I'm going to get my kanji up to par, so when I show up to class in the fall, I'm going to kill it. I studied maybe 2 out of like 40 days because it's, okay, people are going to the beach. People, you find excuses. I use this analogy. It's like the guy who buys a guitar on a whim. Like, I'm going to buy a guitar and get sick of guitar. What happens to that guitar? It ends up sitting there. He played it for the first week. He was excited about it. He wanted to learn all the music. He played Smoke on the Water 100 times and then he puts it away, right? It's like buying a guitar on a whim. If you pick up a language on a whim, you're going to drop it on a whim as well, and it's not going to work. So that's why the first question is so important. Why do you want to learn it? And again, I'm not trying to discourage anyone. If you want to just learn it and you realize it's not for you and you quit, there's no shame in that. But having that reason for why you're studying it can definitely help. So I recommend going to classes if you can. And my advice in those classes, I may be biased because I'm not a very shy person. That may be obvious. I'm pretty outgoing. I love to hang out with other people. I'm very friendly. Well, I'm not trying to sound like I'm bragging, but I just know my personality. It's very outgoing. When I was a kid, I was in plays. I loved to act. I loved to just kind of like make jokes. I guess I was always kind of the class clown. And I don't know. So for me, it's kind of biased because I don't mind getting in front of a classroom. I don't mind raising my hand and trying and failing, because it doesn't really bother me. I'm human. Sometimes I get nervous in front of people, but for the most part, compared to, maybe the average person, I'm very comfortable, with public speaking. So this might not apply for everyone, and I apologize if it doesn't, but my advice is, always volunteer to try to read something, try to answer a question, try to say something. Because, again, this is going to sound like obvious advice, but I'm serious. Like, if you're in class and you're kind of feeling it, I hope these words kind of, you remember, like, okay, Eric said to try, so I'm going to try. I hope you try. And if you do try, let me know. Post in the comments and let me know how it went. Because it may go poorly. It likely will. But the teacher will go, okay, that was pretty good, but you fucked up here. Change this. And then you'll make a note. You'll never make that mistake again, most likely. Again, I know this is obvious advice, but I hope it just rings a bell in your head, because for me, there were some days where I was like a little too nervous. One thing that counteracts nervousness, obviously, is if you're confident, if you know the material. So that's my other advice is I cannot stress this enough. If there's any way you can save for class, like, okay, for example, let's say you're starting and you're a couple months in. The words you've been learning recently and the grammar are related to the weather and weather reports. So you're learning how to say thunder, how to say it's raining, how to say tomorrow it's going to be, I'm so used to Celsius now. It's going to be 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Say you're going through that. You obviously, for the next class, you can prep because you're learning these words and okay, at some point in class, I'm going to have to say these words either with a speaking partner or the teacher's going to call on me and ask me to try to say it. So prepare yourself. Know like, okay, the teacher's going to ask me most likely, or at least to some degree, what was the weather like today and what's the weather like tomorrow? So then in your head while you're, driving to school or actually no, study at home or whatever, get it all practiced. Like, okay, she's going to ask me like, okay, what's the weather like today? So like, 今日はちょっと雨が降ってるんですけど、後で晴れそうですね. Wow, I think I kind of goofed that, but I basically was saying it's raining right now, but later it's supposed to get sunnier. I just kind of have that in my head. I kind of practice it. Now it's not, don't look at it as like cheating. Like, oh, he just brought in like pre-made stuff and just spat it out. Like this is a good thing. If they call on you and the question will probably be a little different. Like, what was the weather like 2 days ago? And you're like, oh shit. Like it changed my answer a little bit, but I could probably still use it or I could tweak it a little bit. And I know this advice sounds obvious, but it goes such a long way, showing up prepared. And this isn't, okay, here's one thing I actually kind of struggled with is I didn't want to be the guy, no one likes a teacher's pet. No one likes the goody two-shoes, the guy, the try-hard, the guy who tries too hard, the know-it-all. But when you're learning a language, I almost feel like that doesn't apply because you're either speaking the language or you're not. It's not like you're the kid in class who like, okay, I know all of the math algorithms, I know all the history textbooks, I know all this stuff, and you don't. So I'm a know-it-all. That's, people kind of get mad, like, okay, he's just a know-it-all, whatever. But when it's a language, like, who cares? If you know it all, that's a great thing. That means you can move on. It's not something to be ashamed about. So for me, that was kind of weird because it's like always, like, I would come to class prepared so much that I wanted to raise my hand. Like, okay, I prepared. I kind of earned my, moment to like, I don't want to say show off, but show off a bit, like show off. Okay, I learned this. And then you'll probably still likely make a mistake in there. But if you feel confident and they're like, okay, you could change this a bit, just be like, oh, okay, cool. Thank you. That goes a long way. And I know a lot of people might be really shy and it's hard, but I want to encourage you to try. Volunteer. Be a part of the small group of classmates that are really trying hard in the know-it-alls, but in a language, being a know-it-all is a great thing. Don't be embarrassed to do that. I'm looking at my other notes here. Practice every day. Sure, this again might be obvious, but make an effort every day to, one thing I do, this helps a lot, is if I'm not learning anything specific that I can like kind of review in my head or practice or a conversation, I'll just simply narrate what I'm doing. I know these might sound dumb, but again, this is stuff that works for me. So like, let's say like I'm on the train and I'm on my way to school. So 今電車で学校に行って授業が終わってから友達と一緒にビールを飲みに行って帰ってから宿題しなあかんけど。Yeah. Sorry, that was kind of a ramble, but basically what I would just saying is that I'm on the train, I'm going to school. After school's done, I'm going to go grab a beer with a friend and then I have to go home and do homework. Again, it's you kind of do that in your head, do it a couple times and it becomes to the point, okay, here's one other note I have here. This is great. It's kind of like a motivational quote. It might be kind of cheesy. My advice overall with learning a language is don't memorize a language, learn a language. This is important because again, like me, I'm trying to memorize this one word, and if I memorize it a bit, okay, so like for example, like another class, like again, I went back to like math and history. For a history test, you study like specific dates, you study what year this war happened, etc. You take the test, and when the test is done, you're probably going to forget it, right? Because you're not using it every day. You're not thinking about it. You might kind of vaguely remember it, but it's kind of gone, right? With a language, you can't really just vaguely forget. You have to remember the syllables, the words, the grammar. So practice every day. And, oh, sorry, I already said that. What I meant to say was learn the language. Don't memorize it. Don't just memorize it enough and then like, okay, I got it on the test and then forget about it. Take the test, you'll get your homework back and you got like an 85. See what you did wrong, see what you did right. And again, it takes a lot of time and you're not going to do it every time. I want to encourage you to do that because for me, that helped a lot. Rather than just getting the homework and be like, oh, I got an 85, I passed, boom. Like, well, wait, why did you get an 85? What did you mess up on? Because you thought you did it right and you didn't. So again, get it to where the language is almost more muscle memory rather than memorization. Like that's kind of a cheesy quote, but it's yeah. Okay. One really important thing. Again, this is mostly like an encouragement video. Again, I showed you like the tools I used and kind of how I studied. Oh, I forgot to mention. I'm going off on too many trails here, and I'm gonna try to still keep it under an hour here. But we also don't really have a time limit, so it's all good. This is the first podcast. I hope this is okay. There's an application called Line. Let me try to grab it here. I don't know if you can see it on my phone. For those of you listening to the podcast, I apologize. It's called Line. You can't really see it. It's just kind of a green, and it's got a white message there, and it says Line. You don't necessarily have to download it if you don't have any friends yet that use it. But everyone in, maybe not all of Asia, but I know Korea, and everyone in Japan uses this. And I mean everyone, not like cool kids. It's not like Snapchat where the adults don't really use it and all the kids do. Everyone uses this. SMS messaging literally like doesn't exist there. When I went there and I'd be like, okay, so what's your number? I want to text you. And they're like, well, I'll give you my Line account. And I'm like, well, just give me your messaging thing because I can message you. They're like, what's messaging? What is that? Like they literally didn't have the messaging app even on their phone. Or maybe they threw it away or put it away. Like they didn't have it. I'm like, wait, what? So Line is a terrific app. It's essentially like text messaging mixed with Facebook, mixed with it has like a bunch of really cool like stamps and stickers. Like if you've ever used Facebook Messenger, this is where they came from. They started here and got so popular that Facebook adapted them. At least I think they did, because they're more funny here. I've bought in a few and they're great. They're really illustrated. Anyways, everyone in Japan uses this. So if you end up getting, maybe get a pen pal. There's plenty of websites online that have pen pals for like, hey, I'm new to Japanese and I can teach you English. I want to meet someone. I actually did that for a while. There was a, what was it called? It's called, I think the application I used was called Interpals. It may be more like a dating site. Now that I look back at it, I think it's more of a dating thing. But I used it, I was, of course, talking to some girls, but I was using it mostly to be like, hey, I'm new to Japanese. Like, can we just like chat or whatever? And it always fizzles out. You do it for a bit and then you get busy and you stop. That's normal. But that was something I actually did before, or like when I first started going to school, because I was just so excited to try to practice my Japanese. So you can get Line, add them on Line, message them, and just kind of get used to, reading, writing, and Japanese, and also teaching a little English. It's fun. So Line's great. I kind of went off on a tangent there because I forgot to mention Line, and now I went back to it. Let's see. Yeah, again, last notes. This is all kind of encouraging things. One thing I have written here, I don't know if this is even worth discussing, but we'll go into it, is I have the words written: be proud and excited that you're learning a language, because as you learn it, you're going to be excited. You're going to want to share it with everyone because it's so cool. And you're like, oh, I learned this new word and this new grammar. And at least that's how I was. Am I just a nerd? Get excited about the language. Get excited. It's fun. It's really fun. And, you're going to want to like, oh, did you know in Japanese, actually, they don't use this. They use this. My advice is there's a time and a place to show off your Japanese. There's a time and a place to use it and kind of like, yeah, I know Japanese and this person doesn't. There's times and places to do that. In class, with your teacher or with friends who are study partners, those are times to go ahead and use it. With your speaking partner, with anyone, pen pal, go ahead. When you're with your friends who literally know nothing about Japanese, they're excited, they're happy for you, but they don't really care. Just shut up. Just speak English. Put it. I know I say to use Japanese every day and practice every day, but there's a time for it. You're still in America. You're still with other people who aren't necessarily as interested. And I'm saying that because I'm guilty of this. This might sound like weird advice, but for me, I was so excited and I wanted to share with all my friends different things. And I think I kind of saw over time that they were like, okay, like, please shut up. Because it's, you don't want to put them down or make them feel like they're not as smart or anything, because they're not. I mean, that's not the case is what I'm saying. You happen to be learning one language and they're not. So just be proud, but don't be like annoying about it or too obnoxious or boastful. I don't know, but be proud. But just, know kind of when to turn it off and on. The last thing I've written here, which is kind of cool. I know I said earlier, actually, I didn't even mention this before. One tip of advice, I had this earlier in my notes, but I didn't mention it. A lot of people say that they learn Japanese through anime, which is really cool. There's tons of cool anime out there. You can definitely learn different phrases and words and stuff like that, and it's in Japanese, so of course you can. But my advice is not to learn from it exclusively. That's my advice. Don't use anime as the only way you're learning the language. Use it to complement it. So like what I did, I went into, I spent a year in class learning the foundation and some of the words and stuff like that, so that I kind of got a foundation going. And then I would watch like an anime and I would start to pick up a couple words, like, oh, I know that word. Oh, I know that word. Oh, I've heard that grammar point. Like, wait, what's that grammar point? You can make notes. Use it to complement it. Don't use it solely, only because anime isn't always real Japanese. If you're watching Dragon Ball Z and they're talking about revenge and taking over the world and nuclear bombs, well, I don't know. I don't think they really talk about that, but it's not always real Japanese is what I'm saying. I'm sure there's plenty of anime art out there that are maybe more down to earth, slice of life, and a little bit more realistic that you can totally use. One movie I recently saw, which I'm going to recommend this one, is great. If you guys watch anime, you may know it. It's called Kimi no Na wa. Kimi no Na wa, which means your name in Japanese. Terrific movie. The animation is beautiful. For the animation alone, it's worth watching. It's not in America yet, though. So if you want to do it legally, wait. If you want to do what I did and have a friend show it to you online, the Pirates on the Bay, you can find it online. I haven't found it in 1080 yet, so I'm going to wait until it actually comes out and buy it. But I recommend it. It was really popular. It might still be in theaters in Japan, but it was in theaters just earlier, a couple months ago, and it blew. It was a huge hit. Anyways, but that movie, I've been watching it multiple times now because it's the Japanese in it is very, very real. So that one I can recommend because it's just kind of the life of these two teenagers. And I don't want to spoil it, but it's really good. My advice again, just use it to complement it because anime can be a great complement. You can learn new things. I would just encourage not to use that as the sole thing because it can kind of make your Japanese weird. I think I've seen some people who I think they were learning from Naruto and they came in saying some stuff and it was like, what? It was like fighting words, or it was just kind of strange. It's just not real. So that's just my encouragement. By all means, if you want to, go ahead. But that's my advice. But my last thing I'm going into is, even though I say not to learn solely from anime, learn from manga as well. Use this as a complement for sure. For those who aren't watching the video version, I'm holding up a manga book called Doraemon. 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 It's a really, really popular show / manga. Started off as a manga, I think, in Japan. I think it started in the 60s, and it's been coming out like every week since the 60s. It's still going. It says in the title here, it's a gadget cat from the future. It's basically this nerdy kid. He's not really good at anything. He's not very strong. He kind of gets beat up and things like that. Gets a friend from the future. He's a robot cat who has a bunch of like gadgets. So like there's one episode where the main character, he needs to study for a test the next day. So Doraemon is the character. He gives him a tool he gives him bread that if you write down things on the bread and you eat it, you can remember it. It's called Anki Pan. Pan is bread and Anki means like memorization. So it's like memorization bread. Anyways, it's really childish and it's a kid's show. So, but this is a terrific book because the one I'm holding specifically is the English / Japanese version. So how do they call it? It's the Shogakukan English Comics. Shogakukan means like elementary in Japanese. So Shogakukan English Comics. If you can find this online, I definitely recommend it because it has both the Japanese and the English of the original like first manga, so the old ones. But it has the English written in there, but above it is the Japanese. So you can try to read in just Japanese, or you could read just the English and go back. You can do whatever you want. This is terrific. I'm not a huge anime or manga guy, but I buy a lot of manga. I buy it and I read through like, how do I say? Like, I'm not like a huge fan where I buy all of a series. I'll just buy a single book of a lot of series. So here's the manga of that movie I just recommended, Kimi no Nawa. Look at this illustration. It's beautiful. The whole thing is like, the whole cover's like, even the first few pages are in color. This is great. So this is all in Japanese. And again, the movie it's really realistic Japanese. So the words that are in here are mostly, I mean, there's kanji in here, but you'll notice if you're reading manga that have kanji in it, they'll usually have the hiragana next to it so that you can understand it, or at least understand how to read it. So if you learn hiragana and katakana, you could technically read this whole book. You won't understand every word, but you could sound out and like phonetically read this whole thing, that's a great thing. I have a whole stack here. I'm not gonna like go into each one individually. I'll just show you the stack because it's kind of cool. What do I have here? Sorry, I'm kind of organizing all this. This is like a fourth of it. I got Tokyo Ghoul, One Punch Man, Batum's kind of cool. This one's weird. What was it? Hakaiju. It's like monsters or something, end of the world. I actually have maybe my proudest one in here. This one's sick. Check this out. I'm a huge Zelda fan, as I'm sure many of you are. This is the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask manga. It's the manga. In the manga, Link actually talks. For those who don't know, this is a video game. The main character in the game, he never talks. And in here, he talks, and it's fucking cool. So this, I've gone through. If there's a word I don't know, I like take a pencil and I write it. I've read through this whole thing once when I was in Japan. I didn't understand half of it, but you can see the pictures. You understand what's going on. Manga is absolutely awesome for helping your reading and writing Japanese, and especially once you start learning kanji. So this says Zeruda no Densetsu, which means the Legend of Zelda. So again, this is the katakana, so Zeruda. It's like an English or a foreign word. Zelda's legend, essentially. Awesome. And I guess last thing is, aside from manga, you can buy books as well. This is an autobiography from a really cool manga artist. His name is Mizuki Shigeru. He unfortunately passed away, I think, last year. He was in World War II. He was a terrific manga artist. I only know all this because I learned about him in a class. He lost his arm in the war, but he was a really terrific artist. I'll see if I can find some art in here. And he basically made like manga autobiographies about his experience in the war, because it's a really sad and really insane story. With just World War II in Japan, it's a really, really difficult time, very confusing time. People are basically expected to die, and he didn't, and he was kind of scolded at by his officers for not sacrificing himself. Really, it's pretty deep stuff. But that being said, I haven't read this whole thing, but I bought it while in Japan because it was cheap and it's small. But at some point, I'm going to go through and read through this whole thing because again, this is more of a novel. So this is terrific. If you can read through this, your Japanese is really good, but it's not quite there yet for me. So I guess while we're just on this manga thing, one other great anime aside from Doraemon to watch if you're trying to watch like children's cartoons that are easy Japanese to understand, or manga. This is Shin-chan. A lot of you guys may know, if you guys watch Adult Swim, it's called Shin-chan, I think. Apparently, I heard the American translation didn't come to America very well because it's a very Japanese show. It's the jokes and the humor and the just everything inside of it is so Japanese. After I was there from a year, and then I watched this like anime, and there were so many like nostalgic things like, oh, I totally remember using that in Japan. They have these, for example, they have tables where there's like it's a table and on the sides of it are blankets that kind of hang down, and underneath the table there's a heater. And you can like put your feet under there and kind of lay with the blanket, but you're under a table, so you can put food on the table, but it's warm. It's incredible. It's just so everyone kind of sits around laying, they like eat fruit, watch TV, and there's parts in this where they do that, and it's like, oh, that's totally nostalgic for Japan. But it's a really funny comic in Japanese. I think it makes more sense in Japanese than in English. This can even help you learn Doraemon as well. It's very Japanese. Through both, you actually can get kind of a good idea of Japan, to be honest. I know it's a cartoon and it's a joke, and everything's really exaggerated, but this is very Japanese. It's got his dad, who's a salaryman worker. His mom's a stay-at-home mom, which is a very common thing in Japan. So he hangs out with his mom a lot. It shows like kind of the shenanigans he gets into with school. I'm reading this right now. The mom is... Well, it's kind of got some almost nudity in here, but the mom is going with the daughter into a hot spring, and that's a big thing in Japan. Nudity, and you're with the same gender in Japan, but it's a hot spring, and it's a really cool experience. One of my favorite things in Japan was the hot springs. So anyways, I recommend this. I guess in Japanese, if you were to read it, it's Kureon Shinchan. Kureon is like crayon because the animation is purposely very terrible. But that kind of adds to the humor, and it's really funny. I love this series. It's great. Anyways, guys. Oh, last thing. I know I was giving advice on practicing every day. Always be thinking about it. Kind of have it running through your head. Get a notepad. This is a big example. I only have this notepad because this sits by my bed. This says, what does it say? Netflix no random no tango. So it's random Netflix words. So I go to bed watching Netflix or YouTube all the time, or actually like every night. And if I'm in the mood, I'll put on a Japanese show because Netflix recently came out in Japan. So right now there's a lot of Japanese series that are coming out. Sorry, I was on the verge of sneezing there. I thought I was going to sneeze. There's a lot of Japanese series that are coming to America. One that I recommend, it's kind of stupid and it's a reality show, but it's called Terrace House. The reason I watch it is because, again, it's a reality show and it's probably kind of dumb, but the Japanese is people from ages 18 to 26 speaking to each other and talking about drama and sex and love and things and all that. So that's very, 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 very real Japanese. So for me, it's really great practice. I love using it kind of as a way. So anyways, all I'm saying is I have a notebook there. I have a notebook in my backpack. I have my phone, which I take notes on. I have one at work when I was working at the Japanese bookstore. That's unfortunately ending soon, but in order to free up more time so that I can study Japanese. Long story short, I entered a job at a bookstore, a Japanese bookstore, in order to improve my Japanese. And then right after that, I ended up getting another job. So my Japanese in class was actually getting much worse, unfortunately, this semester. So unfortunately, I had to put in my 2 weeks, which is a really sad thing. I loved working there, and I love everyone that works there. But I simply am really busy. As if you saw in my last video, I was explaining that I'm just really overwhelmed, and that's why we're kind of doing podcasts right now rather than doing video editing because I'm too tied up. I don't have time to edit videos together. So doing a podcast like this is great. I thank you guys seriously so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed it, if this helps at all, I hope it does. Again, I know my advice might just be like, study hard, don't slack off, but I mean it, man. Have fun. If there's any advice I can have is the reason I ask why do you want to learn it is because you should enjoy it. And if you don't think you'll enjoy doing it, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's maybe there's another language you'd like to learn. There's a lot of factors, and there's always reasons to make excuses on why you don't want to do it. So I just encourage you to have a good enough reason to kind of motivate you and keep you excited, keep it fun. I love learning this language. There's days where I don't want to do it, but at the end of the day, I find myself getting more and more passionate toward it. So that's partly why I do the YouTube channel as well, is because I just want to share what I'm learning with everyone. And so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helped. Thank you guys so much, for real. If you guys are tuning in for the first time, this is Eric Abroad. I have a YouTube channel, which is my primary channel here, but I'm now venturing or reaching out. We're not changing from YouTube, but I'm reaching out also to SoundCloud, YouTube, and SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play Music for the podcast here. If you guys enjoyed it and if it helped out, please let me know in the comments. If there's any constructive criticism, like, hey, this podcast is too long, which is probably going to be one, let me know in the comments. I'm going to try to keep these, somewhat short, or roughly an hour. I think I'm about an hour and 5 minutes here. So we're probably going to wrap this one up, I think. But I had a lot of fun. This is great. Again, it's a way for me to kind of talk to you guys in a way I never really could before. And I can kind of go off on tangents and tell stories. And I think this is fun. I hope you guys have a good reason to study Japanese. And if not, I hope you're at least motivated enough to keep going with it because it's a lot of fun. Let me know, what your progress is like. If you end up buying any of the textbooks, applications, or any books that I recommended, let me know what you think. And yes, I think that will pretty much do it for today. I had a ton of fun. It's now midnight, so my roommate is probably a little upset. I have a Japanese roommate. She is from Tokyo, and I think she's in bed or studying right now. So I'm going to wrap this up for tonight. I have work tomorrow, not till noon. But it's time to go get some bed because I'm actually pretty exhausted. So thank you guys for listening so much. If you guys liked it, kind of spit there. Let's try it again. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. If you guys liked it, please give me a like. Please follow me on SoundCloud if you're on there. If you're simply on YouTube, please leave a like and a comment, and please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate any subscribers I can get, and lately, a few of my videos have been getting a little bit more views lately, so I've seen the subscriber count start to boost up a bit. It's still a very small channel, but I am so excited to see it growing a little bit. We'll continue doing it no matter how many subscribers we have because it's fun, but seeing those subscribers is, it makes me happy. It's really encouraging, and you guys leave a lot of positive comments saying that you're excited about Japan. So I hope this video helps, at least encourage, or I hope it actually helps you, you know, kind of if you're deciding on learning Japanese. That's how I went through it. And again, I've said it like a million times now. I'm kind of repeating myself. This is what happens when you don't have a script. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, please subscribe, please comment, please share, please follow, please hashtag. I don't know. Do all that stuff, please. I appreciate all you guys. Love all you guys. I had a blast. Thank you guys so much. Let me find a sound. We need to play some kind of a... Oh, here we go. This is perfect. So I'm kind of rambling. I'm talking too much, and I'm going too fast. It's Charlie Brown. It's Charlie Brown sound effect. That's so cool. I have way too much fun with this. We have let's see, we have a laugh track. All right, Eric. Time to end the podcast. Thank you guys for listening so much. Again, for now, the podcast will be coming out every Monday morning. So I hope you'll tune into next week. And depending on time and such, I may occasionally upload a podcast sometime during the middle of the week if I'm just kind of in the mood. Maybe there's something that happens. Maybe Donald Trump wins the presidential election and we need to talk about it. Well, I'm not a very political guy, so we probably won't talk about that. But thank you guys again. Do all that stuff, and I'll see you guys next time in the next podcast, and then hopefully some more videos on my normal travel channel, hopefully in the future here soon. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good night, and oh, here we go. Happy Halloween. Have a good night, guys. Peace.